Ciao everyone, and welcome to Restore Audio with Izotope RX. We're gonna now dive in understanding and work with each single module in order for you to obtain the best audio results. We're gonna start with the brush and the Spectral Repair Module in order for you to see how easy it is to spot problems and fix problems on the fly. So in order for me to demonstrate how each single module in RX works, I've already set up a Pro Tools session with different clips. In each one of these clips there is a particular problem that we're going to try to fix using Izotope RX. I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate how the Spectral Repair Module works on this first clips over here. Give it a listen and try to analyze what really doesn't work within the context of this song. Now, the guitar squeak is pretty evident over here. Now, I'm going to show you how easy it is to actually spot the problems within RX and remove it. In order for me to work with RX, I need to connect the program material contained within my Pro Tools session with RX, which works as a standalone. To do so, I have to use what is called RX Connect, which can be found under Audio Suite menu, RX Connect. Now, through this module, I could do two things. The first thing is to send a file as a reference. Let's say we are aiming to EQ match an ADR dialog versus a production dialog. Or in this case, I'm going to select repair, meaning I'm going to send my file into RX, fix the problem, send them back, and render the file. And this brings me to a very important thing to do. Back up your file. I'm going to close this for a minute and create a duplicate playlist as a backup plan for this demonstration. To do so, hold down Ctrl-Shift-, and you will be prompted to the new playlist or duplicate playlist. In this case, I'm going to put the same name, .rx. Alright, now that I have a backup playlist to come back with just in case I mess up, I can go back into my audio suite, Izotope, RX7 Connect, repair, send. And as soon as you do this, RX will open up and load up the file. Alright, so now the first thing you want to do is to make sure that the playhead follow playback is on. So every time you're going to stop around the session, your cursor is going to have the playback starting from the exact point where you stopped. Now I'm going to go ahead and give a listen to kind of like spot where the problems are. And before I do so, I'm going to kind of like decrease a little bit the waveform view. As you can see right now, I'm fading it in. And Command equal to give a little bit of a zoom in. Okay. So I have just eyeballed and spotted the first two guitar squeaks over here. I'm going to kind of like decrease even more the waveform view. I'm going to press T to kind of like engage my time selector tool. And let's see where the problem is. All right. So as you can see here, we have a lot of guitar strums. But right where the squeak is, that kind of like the visual representation of it, which is over here, we can see a denser frequency component over here. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of like zoom in a little bit more. And as you can see, right now we have our first squeak. Now I'm going to go ahead and make a selection. Remember to select both files since we're working out of a stereo file. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. And again, within the transport, you have this little playback surrounded by this dotted square. This lets you actually play only the frequency you have selected within the spectrum. So if I press display, that's our squeak. Now let's see, let me just make our selection a little smaller. And what I'll do here a little too small. What I'll do here is as well engaging my brush tool, and by holding down and clicking you can select the size of the brush, in other words how big or small the brush is going to be. Because what I want to do is to zoom in a little bit more, and by holding down shift I can keep adding few other selections, because what I want to do is nonetheless making sure that all the harmonics that are contained within the squeaks have been selected. Okay, that looks about right. Ugly, but right. The next I'm going to do is to select my spectral repair mode, and what I'll do right now, you have pretty much 3 different direction of interpolation. You can go horizontal, and you can see this this bracket goes on the left and on the right side of our selection. Vertical, which we're not going to use it for the time being, and 2D. Now right now we want to work with the horizontal interpolation, and as you can see with the surround region length we can tell our spectral repair module how big or small our selection is going to be. And what I did was also messing a little bit with the before and after weighting. As a matter of fact, what I want to do is I want to attenuate the squeak but still interpolating a little bit more of the first part of the sound. I generally tend to use a very low level of strength. Izotope RX works really well if you do multiple passes rather than trying to get rid of a sound all at once. So I'm not even going to compare. I'm actually going to zoom out and hit one level of render. And as you can see already, all the harmonics that we have highlighted have kind of like dimmed down. They've been attenuated. I'm going to go ahead and click a little bit out of it. So Command D to lose the selection. I replace my cursor, press play. Nice. The squeak is still there, but way, way lower. Let's see how the other squeak works. Oh, there it is. All right, so as you can see here, we have our transient where pretty much the downbeat of the song is restarting. And right before here, we got our squeak. Command equal again to zoom in. And this time, I want to see if I can zoom in a little bit more. Okay. Gonna make the selection a little bit bigger. And again, B to select my brush, hold down shift to create another selection. Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna keep the same settings. Let's see how good are we gonna do to its sound. Okay. Let's zoom out. Lose the selection. Third and last squeak. There we go. So again, T to select our time tool. Gonna zoom in a little bit. And again, the squeak most of the times have the same pattern. So you can see they go from top to bottom. They create this sort of like arch figure. Now what I want to avoid is to grab the downbeat of the song, and I only want to focus on the squeaks. Gonna zoom in. And again, what I'll do is to select my brush, which again, if you click and hold down on the brush, you can resize the brush. Right now, the size is good with me. If you want to create multiple selection, I repeat, you hold on shift and then you keep selecting the files. All right. All right, this looks ugly, but about right. Let's see how it sounds. I'm going to zoom out. Beautiful. So I'm gonna give a whole listen to the entire clip. Okay, there is still a little bit over here, which we're gonna try to remove right now. And I can already spot that. Let's see. All right, we could have done better. So I'm gonna go back 2 levels of undo. And instead of using the brush over here, I am actually going to select the squeak only with the time tool. I'm gonna play. Okay, maybe this is a little too big, so we're gonna narrow this down. Okay, let's see. Going to zoom out. Perfect. There's a last squeak over here. Look at that. We almost forgot about that. Command D to lose the selection. I'm going to zoom in and figure it out where this last squeak is, which should be this guy over here, if I'm not mistaken. Again, when it comes to the spectrogram, it's just a matter of get accustomed to patterns and figure, and you can eyeball and spot where the problem is. Now, to fix the problem, though, you have to remember to use your ears, because otherwise it's pointless. All right, let me hear what we got here. Feels about right. I'm going to reopen the Spectral Repair Module. Again, I'm using the exact same settings. Render. Command D to lose the selection. Command hyphen to zoom out. Perfect. Gonna give another listen. Sounds great. Now, once you know that, your selection in Pro Tools, it's still kept the same way you had it, here's what you're gonna do. Inside Izotope RX, you will click on Send Back. And within the Izotope Connect, now you have a new window that says Press Render to commit the change. Now, what I'm going to do just for demonstration purposes is to render the RX files on a spare track so I can A/B the 2 tracks and let you hear the difference. But then later on, I'm going to render it exactly on the track. That was the reason why we create a playlist. So I'm going to create render. Okay, so this is the .rx, which is the file we have actually fixed, and this is the original. What I'm going to do now is to A/B between the 2 of them. So right now we're going to listen to the green one, which is the original. RX file. Pretty amazing. I mean, let's be honest. There is nothing in the world that does what RX does. I'm going to undo, semicolon just to select my track, going back to RX, send it back, render on my track. So right now, if I decide to pull up my playlist, as you can see over here, this is the original file. Whether over here we have the -rx, which tell us that is the file that we actually have corrected. Now, since we're talking about spectral repair, I'm going to bring you to another memory location where I actually have another file that I would love for you to see how to spectral repair it. And it's nonetheless this guy over here, which I'm going to play you. Let's see how well Izotope RX deal with unwanted sounds with a Spectral Repair Module. For instance, in wanting to remove unwanted sounds, perhaps that have been captured into a live interview in a very loud context. So as you can see here, we undoubtedly are talking about a live interview with a lot of background noise, and especially a siren that cuts through the whole, sentence. So sirens are generally really tough to restore and fix, as they have a never-ending changing of pitch. Let's see how Izotope and the Spectral Repair Module deals with this aspect. So I'm gonna send this to a repair, send. No, thank you. All right. So this is our interview. I'm gonna let you hear it. Let's see how well Izotope RX deal with unwanted sounds with a Spectral Repair Module. For instance, in wanting to remove unwanted sounds, perhaps that have been captured into a live interview in a very loud context. All right. So again, in order to remove unwanted sounds over here, we're going to keep using the Spectral Repair Module. Now, the Spectral Repair Module, before we use the Attenuate button, and in other words, the Attenuate works really well to reduce levels of sounds events that, are very, very short and abrupt, like a guitar squeak, a microphone bump, or maybe a cough of somebody in the background. If we move to the next tab, Replace. Now, replace actually, as the word says, replace the content with audio interpolated from the surrounding data. If you remember, before there were two brackets around our source, so he will interpolate that audio and then replace that. Especially if you have, let's say, a dropout or badly damaged short section of audio that you need to repair, this is definitely the module you want to use. Pattern, for instance, let's say you have audio with repetitive sounds, like a fast high pattern, like an helicopter or something that has similarities to something that repeats, like in this case a siren maybe. This pattern works really well because it will find similar sounding events and try to pattern them to replace the unwanted sounds. And lastly, we got partial plus noise, and this module nonetheless restore harmonics of audio a little bit more accurately by giving you this harmonic sensitivity, which will let you go through the different harmonics part of a timbre of a sound. For this example, I want to start with our Attenuate tab to see if we can start attenuating some sounds. Now, the first thing you see here, if I just close the Spectral Repair Module for a minute, is that I'm going to fade out the waveform display, is that we can actually see, if I zoom in a little bit more, the actual spectrum of our ambulance, and we have our fundamental down here and a set of harmonics. So the first thing I'm going to do is type W to select our Magic tool, and I'm going to click on it. And as you can see right now, I'm clicking on this harmonic, and I have nonetheless highlighted our ambulance fundamental. I can give it a shot and play this for you. Now, through this Magic tool, I can also select a different range of harmonics, and what I'll do is right now is select all. With that in place, I can play this, and this tool pretty much has highlighted and extrapolated only the frequencies that belong to our siren. Okay, I'm going to zoom in a little bit more, as there are something missing here. All right. So what I'll do right now is choosing my brush with B and select by holding down my mouse on it a brush size. I'm gonna hold down Shift so I can keep creating selection, as I want to really and carefully make sure that all the harmonics of our ambulance have been taken under control. So over here I see this over here, this over here, and this part of the harmonics here, and here. All right, I'm gonna zoom out because what I want to do right now is to go through the entire spectrum of our ambulance. As you can see here, the ambulance has a very long spectrum. So again, I'm gonna hold on Shift so I can keep the previous selection and keep selecting more. And I'll make my brush slightly bigger. Okay. Now I'm gonna go ahead and highlight the section where the fundamentals of our siren is. And again, in terms of sirens, they are following a pattern, as they pretty much have a pitch that goes up and down, up and down. So once you can eyeball where approximately this pattern should go, at least for the fundamental, this will let you spot all the other harmonics. So right now here, I'm gonna reduce the size of the brush. As I see this, it looks like connected to some of the harmonics over here. This looks, again, part of our ambulance spectrum. And let's see where we at. All right. I'm going to see if this is still part of our harmonic here. Okay, so I'm gonna open the Spectral Repair, and within the Spectral Repair right now, you can select two different types of direction of the separation, horizontal, or in this case, vertical, because that's what we want to do. We want to go vertically from the fundamentals up to the higher harmonic. In this case, what I'll do is to click on the tab Compare, and the tab Compare is going to bring me up this new window of the Compare settings where I can compare what I did without committing the sound. So I can preview how the sound was. Let's see how well Izotope RX deal with unwanted sounds with a Spectral Repair Module. For instance, in wanting to remove unwanted sounds, perhaps that have been captured into a live interview, and let's see the repair. Let's see how well Izotope RX deal with unwanted sounds with a Spectral Repair Module. For instance, in wanting to remove unwanted sounds, perhaps that have been captured into a live interview in a very loud context. As you could hear already, just with one passive render with a strength of 1, we have done a lot. So I'm gonna give one passive render, and I'm gonna click on a second passive render. Let's see how well we did. Let's see how well Izotope RX deal with unwanted sounds with a Spectral Repair Module. For instance, in wanting to remove unwanted sounds, perhaps that have been captured into a live interview in a very loud context. I mean, if I would spend more time finessing what I just did, I think we could extrapolate and remove completely the sirens. But given the time being, the Spectral Repair Module did a fantastic job. So I'm gonna go back into Pro Tools. I'm gonna create again a duplicate playlist, which I'm gonna call this RX. And right now, I'm going to send this back into Pro Tools and render this. So we have the new version. Let's see how well Izotope RX deal with unwanted sounds with a Spectral Repair Module. For instance, in wanting to remove unwanted sounds, perhaps that have been captured into a live interview in a very loud context. I want to just play how it was before from here. For instance, in wanting to remove unwanted sounds, perhaps that have been captured into a live interview. New one. For instance, in wanting to remove unwanted sounds, perhaps that have been captured into a live interview in a very loud context. Again, there's nothing on the planet that does things like RX does. So with the Spectral Repair Module, as you could see, just with a little bit of work, we could do a great job in removing an annoying sound such as a siren. If you would spend more time and listen more carefully, I bet you can get even greater results. I truly hope this was helpful to you. As you could see, and we were just barely scratching the surface, with Izotope RX you can do things that were unthinkable until a few years ago. Thanks to the brilliant minds at Izotope right now, we have a lot of power to truly restore audio in an extremely pristine way. I'm gonna go ahead right now and explain the other modules that comes with RX, so stay tuned for more.